Hey everybody, welcome back to the Miser's Guide to Evony. In this special video for the walkthrough series, I'm going to take a break from the level by level guide, and I'm just going to give you a picture of what the Archetype account looks like at Keep Level 30. Keep Level 30 is a really big one, and when you hit Keep Level 30, there is a lot to start to do. The building costs get so extreme that to just focus on boss chests like we've been doing and not really worrying so much about resource production and so on isn't quite as feasible as it was in the past. And I've been telling you guys for the last maybe 5 keep levels or so to start focusing on in-city production and so on. And you'll kind of see in this video where I'm at with all of the different stages of development for Archetype. So it should give you a point of comparison for where you're at as well. And it might give you some ideas of what you might need to do. You might even be further ahead in different aspects. So it's not going to be as structured as the previous videos where I go through specific content. I'm just going to go through and we're just going to look at all the things. And I'm going to take it slow so that you can find what you need to compare to whatever Archetype is at, if that's what you want to do. So I've got Archetype open over here. First thing we'll look at is just the Monarch talents that are being used, the gear, fame level, that sort of thing. So you'll notice that Archetype is VIP 10. None of that is through purchasing. It's just from having the 50 days in a row and gaining 590 VIP points per day. Eventually just accumulates and you raise your VIP level. So I've got VIP 10, which means I have that extra March slot. I've had that for a while. And as you go up, you get, little bonuses and stuff, nothing too extreme, but every little bit of VIP does help. So I like to keep that permanently active with a 30-day that I can just purchase over here in the black market every so often. All right, in terms of Monarch gear, everything is pretty much level 5 or 6. I don't really care about the HP and the attack and all that. I don't have any troops, but don't sell anything, don't get rid of anything, just collect it for now. What I do care about are the crowns. So I have the construction crown at 6. I have the research intellect crown at 6. Those are super important. I have my justice horn for March speed monsters, and that's permanently on because I join a lot of bosses. That one is at level 6 too. Pretty much most of what I need is at 6 now. I have most of these, almost all of them at 6 as well, all the crystals. And I have the stone one on permanently on because that's the biggest resource type that is being produced right now in this Archetype account. So that one is the one that I'm making use of. What else did I say? Okay, the talents. So here's the talent setup that I have currently going on right now with Archetype. So offering is very valuable because I do the regular offering per day. At this point, because I have such a lot of gems, I usually do either 5, so this was only 3, but I usually do 5, or if I'm feeling it, I'll do 10 per day, just to get that extra production bonus for a longer period of time, and also because the prestige that you gain is just really important. It's not so important for Archetype because Archetype is on an existing server that's been around forever, so Archetype is not going to get anywhere. But if you are starting out on newer servers, then prestige is extremely important. So you want to be at the top of the charts for that. So offering is very important for your first pick. Resource production, of course, is something that we're worried about right now. So we're trying to get our in-city production as high as possible. The gathering speed is going to be reduced as a side effect, but that's not a super big deal, especially since we aren't set up with equipment to be really fast gatherers anyway. And I just think that this is overall more impactful, especially where we are right now. So resource production, if you are somebody that runs a lot of bosses, you probably want mortality instead, just to save troops from being wounded quite as much. But for 90% of you, resource production here. Research speed is what I have going on here. The archer attack is useless. Warehouse protection, I mean, if you, that's not going to make a huge difference if you drop your bubble. So research speed is the only valuable one right now. But if you, again, are somebody that's going to have a lot of wounded troops because you're running bosses, then you probably go one of these other two so you can pick up healing cost. But for 90% of you, research speed is where you'd want to go. Then I'm over here on troop load, which isn't very impactful right now, but when we make troops, it will be. Stamina regeneration, just because. Very important here, resource critical. That one is essential for when you are opening boxes, because you have that 10% chance to get double for the boxes that you open. So you'll get free resources, and free resources are excellent. And I can't really pick anything else. But if I were to go down, it would obviously be to Gathering Boost. And that one would require higher Monarch level. That it's not quite there yet, so I'd get 4 points in there. And then we'll worry about the rest when we get to higher keep levels. None of it's going to be super impactful for growth. It's more going to be more for actual PvP and so on at the later stages. So for us, we're really only carrying up until about right here. The rest, yeah, I don't see anything that's going to make a big difference in terms of growing. Okay, fame level, this is where we're at with Archetype, 162. So nothing great. We got 90 points in domination, 21 here. So, I mean, we're growing. But we were able to collect whatever the rewards were in the first chest, and you know, that's where it's at. Okay, let's look at the art hall next. Art hall, if you haven't been doing it, you would want to open up. I don't think I have any items, but you have those little chests with the different levels that you can open up, and they have art supplies and stuff in there. You go into the exhibition hall, and your goal is to collect all of these eventually. So you can see the green ones are completed. I still need a little bit more here, one more of this to unlock whatever I get next. And the rewards themselves are okay. Like when you open the chest and stuff, they're okay. Some of them are better than others. But the reason why this is actually important is because when you do collect certain ones, you will unlock some of these art treasures. So Mona Lisa, for example, is one of the ones that we're really looking at getting first. All resource production plus 20% is huge. Increase all resource gathering speed, extra resources. This is going to be really huge for growth. And the requirements are oil painting, jewelry hall, and ancient coin hall. If you've been doing a lot of bosses, you're probably not too far away. So oil painting is just about done. What else? Ancient coin still has quite a ways to go. I don't even remember what the other one is. I think it was jewelry or night equipment. I don't know. But there's still quite a ways to go before getting that. All right. Next thing I'll do is just go through. I'm going to zoom in here, and we'll take a look at where the buildings are at, because I know that's going to be a question for a lot of people. Subordinate city is growing, the in-city one. It's just at 19. My culture is, I believe, European. Yeah, I'm European just for the increase in building, speed. So I just queued on some buildings, so I wanted to make sure that is active, but I'll probably be switching over to China fairly soon just to get increase in resource production. And that I'll probably leave active until it's time to build again in consumption. You just get a lot of resources from having that extra couple percent of China. Pasture is only at 11. Not a big concern there. You can look at my Spirit Beast. It's almost fully upgraded. A lot of experience still needed to get to level 10, but I think there's only one more level. Yeah, one more level. I'm short on metals. But the reason this is the only Spirit Beast that is really important at the start because of that double drop rate. You want to get that up as high as possible. You just get more items, more resources. Overall, it pays itself off. Art Hall's at 27. Research Factory at 28. My Academy over here is at 29. Eventually, it's going to have to get up to 30 as well to match the keep level, trying to keep that all together, and it is going to be a requirement down the road. Embassy's at 28. I think I just threw that on for, I think it was at 26 the other day, and I just had to spend a little bit for consumption, so I put that a little higher. Warehouse, I stopped it at 27 because at this point we're producing too much, so I'm not really going to be able to keep my bubble off, so it's less valuable. But you still do want to be leveling up the warehouse so that you can have your food protected from troop upkeep. But we don't have troops yet, so it's not a concern until we get to around 35. Markets at 28. Trap Factory at 14. Forge is at 21. It had to be at 21 a long time ago because of the King's Ring, but we did that quite a while ago. My walls here is queued up for 30. Workshop is at 11. Stables at 23. Barracks at 24. Archer Camp at 13. I think those are just the requirements that we had to do to build. Haven't really focused on that. War Hall at 8. Not important at all. Prison, Holy Palace, none of those are important to upgrade. Rally Spot, however, is at 26, and it is something that when we start getting our troops trained for gathering, we're going to want to get our Rally Spot up so that we can send bigger marches over to Relics at some point. Otherwise, they're going to be kind of capped off. So we are going to want to upgrade that. Tavern is currently getting upgraded to 29, and it will be queued for 30. Next consumption, I believe, because we'll have to raid the tavern, like I did mention in the Keep 30 video. Shrine is at 35 or 25. Most of the resource tiles are at 29, I believe. So I've got how many quarries we've got? I'm going to zoom out a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 quarries. And that might be a little bit more than most people need. If I were to redo it again, I'd probably go one less quarry and put one more mine. Just because I'm finding that the ore has been the limiting factor for growth. I don't have any resources. I'm kind of limited here, but I've got plenty of stone. However, the reason that it was done this way is because in terms of PvP, later on at 35, when we start to actually make troops, the ore is not going to be quite as valuable. So it's needed definitely for building buildings, but in the long term, I'd rather be limited by ore and then eventually get to the point where I have just enough ore to get by for troop production. But it would be terrible to not have enough stone or lumber to make troops later when you get to that plateau in terms of your buildings. Because an excess of ore is not as useful as an excess of any other resource, simply because you don't want to have too much cavalry. They're extremely vulnerable. But that's an opinion, so go with whatever you feel comfortable with. Let's see how many sawmills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sawmills. So could do more sawmills, less. I don't know. It's really up in the air of what you want. You could do less farms than this and focus more on gathering. But if you, the reason that Archetype has done like this is so that Archetype is completely self-sufficient, not relying on any other account, not relying on any support from any outside source. And if you do have the opportunity to have other sources, then you can do other things and adjust. But to be completely self-sufficient, you have to have a bit of every kind of resource, and you have to know what you're doing. So I am very happy with having that many quarries and that many sawmills. We can check out the production here. I don't know if I have. Let me check that I have these on. Yeah, I don't have these on right now. Okay, let me put the speed ups on, and then we'll check what our production is like. So here's what I'm making. So right now, over 1 million food production at keep 30. We haven't even maxed out all the tiles yet. There's very few food production tiles. There's very few farms, so that's still a significant amount. Just as you don't need any more than that. Lots of lumber. I'm at 1.25 and 1.77 stone production. The ore is lagging behind, but that's okay for now. So that's where we're at. So it's good numbers, still some room for improvement. A lot of these are going to have to get upgraded, and that's going to be one of the priorities that I will talk about later. Again, if I had to do it again, I'd probably do 1 less quarry and 1 more mine. But I don't want to have too many mines. 6 would be plenty, in my opinion. All right, what's next? Let's look at research. I'm gonna look over here. All right. Okay, so first we'll look at advancement, because that's really where the focus of most research has been. Anything in city production has been maxed at this point. So we'll just go down and we'll look at some of the things. Construction speed, of course, has been maxed. This is in-city production. Started to, after finishing all the in-city production stuff, started to look at load capacity, so that when the gatherers are getting started in the next little while, they'll be ready to go. Started to look at gathering of ore, because I've noticed that that is the limiting factor. So I think that's how we're going to compensate for the lack of ore. That one will be focused on for gathering. Typography is maxed. Everything in city production is maxed. Construction is maxed. The gathering, still quite a bit to work on in terms of speed, but we're not too concerned about gathering speed just yet. The focus is really on in-city production. Troop capacity is maxed. That was one of the most recent ones. In-city production, of course, maxed. Typography maxed. And super construction is not quite maxed. Got to wait for Academy level 30, but that will be coming up. That will be really important before we hit keep 31. Absolutely no work has been done on defense. A little bit has been done on military as we go through, because we were looking first at getting advanced dispatch, as you know from before, and as well as super advanced dispatch. Did not go any further down, but just recently started to focus on a few things in here. First, because we're doing so many bosses, tracing really helps with the march speed to monsters. And also with the consideration that gathering is going to be happening soon. Advanced compass helps with both gathering and bosses. But advanced coordination is going to increase my march speed. So with the rally spot increasing and troop load capacity, it means fewer and fewer troops are going to be required to hit those resource tiles, which means less upkeep, more food production, and just better overall gathering. Okay, looking at some of the other tabs, let's take a look at medical aid. Absolutely nothing has been done. A little bit has been done in Alliance. We've got Alliance help time, help amount, no further than that. Eventually, we'll want to look at when we're actually doing gathering, and we have that one Jindiok that has increased gathering speed on all the King's equipment. We'll also start to look at gathering speed on Alliance Farm, and further down there's the lumbering bonus, or not just lumbering bonus, but the bonuses to get extra resources from the Alliance tiles, and then Super Alliance, whatever, that kind of stuff too. So eventually we're going to want to look at those. Subordinate city stuff, nothing useful right now. Very good tab later, but not so useful right now. Recovery hasn't been touched, and military advance has also not been touched. That's where we're at in terms of research. So production stats and amount of each resource tile is what I slated to look at next. I already kind of did that. So I've already talked to you about how many of each resource tile I've already that are actually there. You've seen that, and we've looked at the amounts of upkeep and the production, and here are the stats for production. You can compare that to your own. The only difference here with the 519 as opposed to the other ones is because of this. Right, I could swap it to something else if I needed to produce that, but I like to look at whatever I'm making the most of right now is what I want to put that crystal on, is the crystal that I want to put on. The rest can be compensated with by gathering. Okay, next up, generals. So Archetype has been fortunate enough to get a couple of bay bars without having to raid the tavern yet. Just by occasionally looking over here, oh look, here's a Saladin. I don't need that general, but just by popping in every once in a while, you might catch something good. And fortunately, 1, 2, 3 bay bars, and the 2 Cleopatras are weaker versions of bay bars. So that's one of the reasons that Archetype has been very fortunate with double drops so far. In terms of resource gatherers, since there are absolutely no troops right now, that has not been a concern. There's a couple of constances that come, but I would really want to look for Jindioks before I start gathering. A couple other generals that are worthwhile to note. Abd al-Rahman I is a general that you can get from Relics, but I think that this general just popped up in the general fragment chest for Archetype. I don't even remember when this happened. It's something that would have been acquired anyway, but this general is a barracks officer general, so I could level him up a little bit, throw him on the barracks, and it would be a permanent increase to the attack, defense, and HP of ground troops in all battles permanently as long as he's on the barracks. Very useful, and it also increases training speed. So it's something that you definitely want to get at some point by 35 or so on. Not very useful right now, except maybe when we're training tier 1 ground. I don't know. It might be useful, but it's not that significant right now. But definitely worthwhile to keep. Anything else? Okay, Oleg is the same thing, a duty officer for the stables, so for cavalry troops. What else? I don't really care so much about some of these other generals. I considered briefly having Nathaniel Green instead of one of the bay bars, throwing a luck book on Nathaniel Green and just using the reduced stamina cost, but I just kept with the Cleopatras and the bay bars. Yeah. But if you are finding that you have stamina problems and you happen to have one of those, that's very good to use as well. Okay, equipment. So right now in terms of equipment, Archetype is not in great shape. Archetype has 5 Fearless King's Rings. So 1 for each of the double drop generals. But aside from that, basically no gear has been crafted. These are all just the dropped kind of stuff. Nothing has been crafted. So one of the next steps will definitely be to do some of the crafting that's required. We're going to want 4 sets of Champions gear and 1 set of King's Gathering gear that we're going to want to craft. So all that can be done here. If I look, for example, for Champions, it's the purple ones. Okay, there's none there. No. Oh, what am I talking about? It's the yellow ones here. So Champions is 4 pieces. One of them is the chest. And what we're looking for is getting all 4 pieces on each of the Jindyaks for that extra 10% resources back from gathering. Okay. Let's see what else. Amount of gems saved, gold saved, resources. So where are we at right now? We have about over 400,000 gems. So that'll be very useful for when we raid the tavern, but it'll be exhausted pretty quickly. I'm anticipating that going through the tavern will cost 200,000 to 300,000 gems to get the Jindyaks that we need and finish off those bay bars. So there'll be some left over. Hopefully we get lucky. But I am estimating quite a bit of that to go away, and we have such a surplus because we didn't have to bubble for so very long. What else? Gold, we have 246 million, which is not a lot, and that's because a lot of the technology has been sucking that gold, and the focus for Archetype has not been on Vikings because of the lack of stamina. But that's an easy remedy. When Vikings come around, you can just do a bunch of high-level Vikings and get a bunch of gold. So not too concerned about gold. What else here? Resources and speed. So this was an accident. I didn't mean to open all these food boxes. That was a mistake. But no ore boxes. Pretty much nothing left. Lots of stone. So that's approximately 225 there. So we've got over 1 billion stone. Probably about 500. No, that's already 500. So about 700 million lumber. Quite a bit of food, about 1 billion food. So everything is between like 700 to 1 billion of each resources, except for ore. And this is after having gone through and done 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 billion. So if we actually had the ore, we would have hit the 2.5 and gotten all of these, which would have been very, very nice. We would have gotten it 4 times. So ore was very limiting there. And hopefully if we can get the gatherers up to speed and they can gather approximately 1 billion ore by next consumption in a month, then we should be able to hit that 2.5 billion resources each mark, which will be pretty significant. That's a lot of speed ups that we are going to want. What else are we looking for here? Speed ups. So here's the state of speed ups here. There's quite a bit, but I mean, as soon as we start building, it's going to be exhausted very, very quickly because those buildings are getting pretty massive. So it looks like a little bit, but it goes really quick. What else? That's about it. Okay, so now let's talk about where Archetype is at and where Archetype needs to go. One of the first things that Archetype needs to do is get Tavern up to Tavern 30, and then we're going to look at getting the extra 2 bay bars and 5 Jindyaks. We're also going to, when we do that, we're going to look for certain generals for future PvP, so things like Trajan would be nice to pick up. We might want 1 or 2 Emirs, and those ones would be for the troop load. Where's Emir? I don't know, he's somewhere in here. Arabia? No. so bay bars, this is one of the ones that we want to get. We want 5 bay bars total. We want 1 or 2 Amir Timurs. We also want to pick up 1 Trajan. He's a great general for ground PvP. We want to pick up a few Empress Dowager 6Cs. Maybe 2 would be a good number to go with, and those will be used on subordinate cities. We want quite a few Andrew Jacksons. That was probably under America, but yeah. Andrew Jackson, where are you? Andrew Jackson's excellent because it reduces mounted troop HP by 20%, which is something that is great, but most importantly, reduces ranged troop attack by 20%, and having 5 of them on there is going to be a significant way to debuff some of the archer attacks that are going to be happening against you in PvP. So 5 Andrew Jacksons, 2 6Es is 7 subordinate cities, and that's where a lot of players might be at. But if you do have 8 or 9, then just pick up another Andrew Jackson or 2. Can't go wrong. Okay, and the Queen Jindioks, where are Jindioks? It's right here, Korea. So this is what Jindiok looks like, and that's what you'd be looking for. After doing the tavern raid and getting those generals, which would probably cost me about 200 million gold and 300,000 gems to finish it off completely. After that, I'm going to want to train about 1.5 to 2 million tier 1 ground or siege. That should be more than enough. And that will get everything rolling in terms of gathering. Right away, I'd want to take those Jindioks and I'd want to use my general experience books on them to level them up because they don't get experience through gathering. I think you should. I mean, I think that finishing a tile should give your general experience in the same way that they get boss experience from doing bosses, but they don't. So I would highly recommend you use your experience books on the Queen Jindioks, and hopefully you should get 3 to 4 stars on each of them. The way that I would do it is, considering that level 22 is what you need for 5 stars, you need level 18 for 4 stars and level 14 for 3 stars. I would start off with trying to get every single Queen Jindiok at 14, level 14 with the books, and then star them all 3 times. And then go to 1 and move it up to 18. And then put the 4th star on it, and then work your way down, get them all to 18 and 4 stars, and then try to get some to 22 and 5 stars. Go as far as you can. But make them as balanced as possible because you're going to want to be sending them all out when you do send them out. Okay. Don't bother using it on bay bars or anything. They're going to get experience through boss rallies and monsters and so on, so they don't need it. In terms of cultivation, for the Jindioks, only do politics. You don't need to do the rest. It's painful to do cultivation, but do it. Politics will increase your gathering speed, which is important. And even though we're not focusing on gathering speed, it does help. So also consider filling your Queen Jindioks with level 1 gathering books, things like gathering speed for food or lumber, all that stuff. Put just the level 1 books until they're all filled. Sometimes they replace each other. You can check out the video on how to use effectively using skill books or whatever I called it a long time ago. But just do it like that. And once they are all there and you see all the slots are filled up, then you can get the corresponding level 4 book and it will just replace that level 1 instead of accidentally kick something off. All right. That's really the way you want to do it. For the bay bars, cultivate leadership, and you only have to do leadership. That just increases march speed, and you could also put books on the bay bars if you want. Not necessary, but useful. If you have spare books, put on their march speed, monsters respect. Those are all useful to have on the bay bars. They're not essential, but they are helpful. And remember, you only need to have enough troops trained for gathering. We're going to want to start to send 1 to 2 marches, non-stop camping in Relics to get some of the things that I talked about in the previous Keep 30 video. You're going to get a lot of important generals there. Relics are also an excellent source of lots of different important game items like stamina. You'll get extra stamina, gems, tributes, speed ups, and none of those things. This isn't the best way to get those, but you get a little bit of everything, and all those things are valuable. So you get a good mix of important things. Relics are also not awful in terms of resources as they used to be. They used to be just pure awful, but they were improved recently, and you do get quite a bit of resources, not from the gathering itself, but when you're doing all the hammering in the slates, which is, yes, it's a pain in the butt, but you get quite a bit of resources there too. It's still more efficient to get your primary resources from the actual tiles on the world map, but relics are not bad. They're not bad at all. And when you factor in all the different rewards that you get, they're actually pretty useful in terms of what you get. Relics, as they are today, are one of the best sources for quality generals. It won't take you very long to get enough fragments for some of the best generals out there. You can get like Hannibal, Roland, Electra. I already showed you the Abd al-Rahman the first. So there's a lot you can get out there, and you probably only want to get them once. But when you're starting off and you're looking for how to get some good quality generals, that's one of the best ways to do it. Eventually, in the end, you're going to get all of these ones, but I would prioritize the ones I just mentioned: Hannibal, Roland, and Electra. Electra is a fantastic archer PvP general. Hannibal and Roland are excellent with mounted troops. And I did mention Abd al-Rahman. He's great for a duty officer that you can throw on later on as well. And with the Trajan that you got in the tavern, you have also a ground general. So you got all your bases, pretty much all your bases covered. You could even use the Trajan as a temporary wall general until you get something better. But really, you don't have anything in terms of troops if you're following this guide anyway, so don't worry too much about that right now. We will be hoping to get something good for the wall along the way to Keep 35 in the Great General Chests and so on. But for right now, just keep an eye out. With the Bay Bars and the King's Rings, you really want to double down your efforts in joining Big Boss rallies. You're going to need speed ups big time for all these big builds that are coming up in the next 5 keep levels. And when you're planning to go offline for more than an hour, send out your Queen Jindiox to be gathering at resource tiles for the extra resource income to complement your in-city production. And what I mean by that is, like, if you know that, for example, with Archetype doesn't have enough ore, focus on ore, because that way we'll be able to be spending as much as possible in our consumption phase, and that gets us more rewards back. And remember to keep 1 to 2 marches out at Relics full time until you've gotten all of those important generals. I think that's about all I really wanted to show here. Oh yes, of course, keep up with the very, very important mysterious puzzle. God, that thing. I'm so glad I don't have to do that so much anymore. Anything else here that I need to look at? I guess I can show troops. Yeah, it's got so many troops right now. Yeah, not much. Something to definitely work on. That's about all I've got to show you here. So hopefully, I know there's a long, slow, step-by-step video, but hopefully it is something that you guys appreciate so that you can kind of see where Archetype is at and compare that to where you are at. All right, Miser out. I'll see you in the next video.